it going, everybody? I'm Stella Chung, and this is the Weekly Fix, the show where we round up all the gaming and entertainment headlines you may have missed this week. We've got an in-depth recap of last week's PlayStation Showcase, plus we got to speak with the dev team for the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake about the game's announcement. In the entertainment world, it seems John Wick Chapter 5 might be in development, and we have some disturbing news about allegations from the set of the show Lost. Hope you've been having a great week, and let's jump right into it.
Sony just revealed a ton of games, including Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake at its PlayStation Showcase yesterday. But Microsoft immediately took to Twitter to point out that a gamer's dozen of them are also coming to Xbox. The tweet from the official Xbox account didn't mince words. It said, "What a good-looking group," and shared an image of all 12 titles also coming to Xbox. They include Immortals of Avium, Ghost Runner 2, Marathon, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, Dragon's Dogma 2, Alan Wake 2, The Plucky Squire, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Neva, Cat Quest 2, Teardown, and the Talos Principle 2. There were some PS5 exclusive reveals, of course, like an extended gameplay reveal for Spider-Man 2, a Final Fantasy XVI launch trailer, and even a new hardware announcement in the form of Project Q, a streaming handheld compatible with the PS5. While there were a whole lot of games at the showcase, it could be argued the show was a little light on first-party exclusives. Next up in Showcase season is Summer Game Fest on June 8th, where we'll get the first gameplay demo of Alan Wake 2, coming to both Xbox and PlayStation. Then the Xbox Showcase is Sunday, June 11th, and the Ubisoft Forward event on June 12th. You can watch it all right here on IGN. Moving on, Konami has explained the meaning of the mysterious Delta symbol embedded in the title of Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake. A tweet from the official Metal Gear Twitter account says, "The Delta symbol was chosen because its meaning fits the concept of the remake project. Delta means change or difference without changing structure. Delta is a symbol taken from the Greek alphabet, which is sometimes used in the modern era to denote a state of change, chiefly in scientific fields. For example, a lowercase version of the symbol can denote an alteration in molecular chemistry, while the change in velocity of a space rocket is measured in delta V. In this case, the symbol has been used by Konami to symbolize the changes being made to Hideo Kojima's original version of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, which was first released as a PlayStation 2 game all the way back in 2004. We don't yet know exactly what form these changes will take, but Konami has promised that the remake will boast unprecedented graphics and immersive sound, and that it will feature evolved gameplay with a seamless user experience. Still a little unclear exactly who is making this remake. Konami hasn't named any external developer, and yesterday it posted a letter about the game signed by just the development team. I'd be surprised if Konami has the team to make a remake internally at the same level of quality as the recent Resident Evil 4 and Dead Space remakes. The last AAA game Konami shipped was Metal Gear Survive in 2018. Jumping back to Alan Wake 2, Remedy Entertainment has revealed that it will be a digital-only release across all platforms. In an FAQ on the Alan Wake website, Remedy explained, "There are many reasons for this. For one, a large number have shifted to digital-only. You can buy a Sony PlayStation 5 without a disc drive, and Microsoft's Xbox Series S is a digital-only console. It is not uncommon to release modern games as digital-only." Remedy continued by saying that not releasing a disc helps keep the price of the game at $60 on console and $50 on PC. The studio didn't want to ship a disc and have it require a download for the game either. But hey, maybe someone like Limited Run Games could create a physical version someday. Alan Wake 2 launches on October 17th for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. And finally today, Bungie has revealed the next installment in its Marathon series, which has not seen a new entry since 1996. Marathon is a sci-fi first-person shooter series, Bungie's Halo before Halo. This new entry is the developer's first completely new project in more than a decade. Marathon is headed for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, and will feature crossplay and cross-save. According to the PlayStation blog, Marathon will find players engaging one another as cybernetic mercenaries known as runners, exploring a lost colony in search of riches, fame, and infamy. In an interview in the same blog post, Marathon game director Christopher Barrett revealed that the game is PvP focused and won't feature a single-player campaign. He also discussed the game's ties to the original Marathon series. He said, "It's not a direct sequel to the originals, but something that certainly belongs in the same universe and that feels like a Bungie game. Finding those opportunities to nod to the universe's lore while also getting to build something different and new has been one of the best parts of developing this game so far." Unfortunately, most of the comments on this announcement at IGN are disappointed that it doesn't have a single-player campaign. The next update on Marathon will supposedly feature gameplay footage closer to launch.
During last week's PlayStation Showcase, Konami confirmed rumors that a Metal Gear Solid game was being remade. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater is a remake of 2004's MGS 3 Snake Eater, which was written, directed, and produced by Hideo Kojima. Considering the falling out Kojima had with Konami years back, the dev team behind the remake is addressing the question on everyone's mind. is Kojima involved in Delta? No, I'm sorry to report, Kojima has no direct involvement with the game. Speaking with IGN, the team flat out said that Kojima is, quote, not involved. Same goes for Yoji Shinkawa, who was integral to the art design of the Metal Gear Solid games. Shinkawa now works at Kojima Productions. The dev team continued saying, quote, we will work hard to create this remake and also the port so that they can be enjoyed on multiple platforms by even more players all around the world. The ports they're referring to are ports of Metal Gear Solid 1 through 3 and the original Metal Gear 1 and 2, which will all be included in the upcoming Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. As for why Konami chose to remake the third game and not say the first one, was because of the game's position in the chronology of events. A spokesperson for Konami said, quote, we chose Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater because it depicts the birth of Big Boss, which is the starting point of the Metal Gear series. Konami would also consider remakes for Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 based on player demand. Actually, Metal Gear Solid 1 was already remade for the GameCube as Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes. I haven't played it, but I'm told by my colleagues here at IGN that it's pretty good. Anyway, you can check out the rest of our interview with the development team behind Metal Gear Solid Delta at IGN.com. In other news, PlayStation has announced that a port of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is coming to PC this July. As with other recent ports of PlayStation first-party games, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart will feature quite a few PC-friendly customization options, including support for ultra-wide monitors up to 48:9 aspect ratio, unlocked frame rates with different upscaling options, and varying levels of ray tracing. Of course, you can play with full mouse and keyboard support, but you can also play with a PS5 controller with full haptic feedback via a wired connection. The game first launched back in June of 2021 as a PS5 exclusive. Although it wasn't a launch title, it was one of the first to really showcase the console's power. If you're a PC gamer and you're looking for a great action platforming experience, definitely pick this up. We gave it a 9 out of 10, praising the graphics, sound design, and platforming. Your name can now live forever as a part of a statue of Lilith from Blizzard's Diablo series. The first 1,000 players to reach level 100 on hardcore mode will have their name added to the statue. Via Twitter, the official Diablo account tweeted the offer with a start date of June 1st, 2023. Obviously, this isn't an easy challenge, since hardcore mode deletes characters after you die. Make it to the final boss only to fail in battle? You're starting over from the beginning, buddy. And finally, CD Projekt Red's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt has crossed a relatively rare gaming milestone: 50 million copies sold worldwide. Congratulations! The game is in prestigious company, joining Red Dead Redemption 2, Overwatch, and others in the 50 million copies sold club. The first 3 games combined have sold around 75 million copies. More will be sold in the near future as CD Projekt Red has announced plans for several more Witcher games, including a remake of the first game and a multiplayer-centric title codenamed Project Sirius. Looks like you'll have to find some other ways to make money in The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, as Nintendo has finally patched the duplication glitch. Via Australian Nintendo fan site Vooks, the latest update version 1.1.2 removes all currently known methods of item duplication. However, if you take a look at the patch notes, the glitch isn't mentioned at all, but players who updated their game realized they could no longer make copies of items. Other issues officially addressed with the new patch is an audio issue where sound would, quote, play at an extremely high volume in certain conditions, and an issue with the quest titled Camera Work in the Depths. So it looks like I'll have to go legitimate and earn my rupees the old-fashioned way, instead of doing the glider trick and getting 5 items at a time. Which sucks, but you know what, it's fine. I got all my items that I wanted, and yeah, I got my armor sets that I like. What's your favorite way to earn money in the game? Let me know, because I legitimately cannot figure it out, because I cut grass in that game and no rupees come out. But yeah, let me know in the comments. And if you're stuck on any parts, check out our massive Zelda Tears of the Kingdom guide for hints and walkthroughs. At Sony's PlayStation Showcase earlier this week, we got a better look at Alan Wake 2, which a lot of us here at IGN are pretty stoked for. Not me though, because I cannot do horror games. But publisher THQ Nordic also revealed that the game won't be shipping on a disc. Now, it sounds like they may be open to a physical release after all. Via Twitter, THQ Nordic said, quote, we did the disc version of Alan Wake for PC back in the day, in case you missed it. And just because one person or company does not love physical, there's plenty who still do. Give it some thought. We'd love to go at it again. Full circle and all. So THQ Nordic would consider a physical release, but maybe if someone else handled that part. In yesterday's episode of The Daily Fix, Damon actually suggested that maybe a company like Limited Run Games could step up and make a physical edition. They're basically the Criterion collection of the games industry, and they could probably do something really cool with Alan Wake.
Also, if you've seen the new Alan Wake trailer, what are the odds that the FBI agent is Max Payne? The face model is obviously Sam Lake, creative director of Remedy, who's making Alan Wake 2, and also the original model for Max Payne. Let me know your crazy Remedy universe conspiracy theories in the comments. And yet another page of the seemingly never-ending saga of the Microsoft Activision buyout, the European Commission has said that PlayStation outsells Xbox in Europe by a significant margin. Via Eurogamer, European Commission Executive Vice President Margaret Vestager explained why the Commission approved of the deal earlier this month. She said, quote, "The overall market share for Microsoft and Activision was generally low in Europe. It's only when you look at specific segments like shooter games that you get to above 20%. And as for consoles, Sony sells about 4 times more PlayStations than Microsoft sells Xboxes. With this context, we did not think the merger raised a vertical issue. We're not sure if she meant specifically PS5s are outselling Xbox Series consoles, or that maybe she was referring to all generations of PlayStations against all generations of Xboxes. But it's good to note that this refers to Europe and not total worldwide sales. The UK is one of the last major holdouts on the Microsoft Activision deal, but if they happen to change their mind, we'll definitely be covering it, so stay tuned to IGN for more. And finally, the Lord of the Rings Gollum review embargoes have lifted, and they're not great. And now the developer is apologizing for it. On Metacritic, the game currently sits at 41 out of 100. IGN scored the game a 4 out of 10, and that seems to be on the higher end of major gaming outlets. The Guardian gave the game a 1 star out of 5. Yikes. Common complaints are repetitive, unrefined gameplay, bugs, and bland graphics. On Twitter, developer Daedalic Entertainment addressed the unfavorable reviews, saying, quote, "We would like to sincerely apologize for the underwhelming experience many of you had with The Lord of the Rings Gollum upon its release. We acknowledge and deeply regret that the game did not meet the expectations we set for ourselves or for our dedicated community." It goes on like that for about 3 more paragraphs, but to summarize, Daedalic knows they shipped a game that wasn't great, but they will be working to patch out some of the technical issues. The thing is, the bugs aren't the biggest issues with Gollum, it's all the fundamental stuff. Our reviewer specifically highlighted dull stealth gameplay and a pointless story. Patches probably aren't going to fix that. Also, how many of us were actually asking for a Gollum game?
It's time to take a quick break. When we come back, a ton of new media is coming out from the John Wick universe. Plus, the showrunner from the TV series Lost has addressed rumors of a toxic work environment. See you in a bit. Welcome back. Lionsgate has put into development a 5th movie from the John Wick franchise. But first, we have some more gaming news to cover, so let's get back to it. Game developers have always walked a tightrope between making it fun and keeping it challenging. Open-world games have long had to struggle with this since their go-anywhere nature can sometimes make the difficulty too hard, too fast, like if you say wander through a late-game area early in your playthrough. Data miners previously found evidence in 2017's Zelda Breath of the Wild that the game had a hidden system where Link would accrue experience and level up as he progressed through the story. This purportedly decided when the game would make enemies more difficult and dangerous, and when Link would find more powerful weapons. Now, Zelda fans think they found a similar system being employed in Tears of the Kingdom. YouTuber Austin John Plays detailed the system on his channel, where he combined what data miners found in Breath of the Wild with observations made in Tears of the Kingdom. The system has no visible way to track your progress, no XP gauge or anything like that, so it's all invisible to the player, and it makes it more of a seamless experience. According to Austin John Plays, at a certain point, you're likely to see more dangerous blue and black bokoblins. Defeat those harder enemies and you'll gain more experience, which in turn will level up more enemies. Some don't change difficulty though, like certain soldier constructs on the Great Sky Island. Basically, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is as hard as you want to make it. Play more, defeat more enemies, and the game will slowly throw harder bad guys your way. But if you play cautiously and avoid many of the game's more difficult but optional enemies like Hinoxes, you may have an easier time overall. I definitely stumbled into Ganon's area a little bit too early, and now I'm fighting everything on hard difficulty. How are you playing Tears of the Kingdom? Are you fighting every enemy you see, or only dealing with the enemies you have to for the story? Drop your crazy bad guy encounter stories in the comments. Sticking with Zelda news, a few weeks ago we took a look at speedrunners already trying to break Tears of the Kingdom. Well, via Games Radar, speedrunner ZDI6923 shared a YouTube video of them beating the game in just under an hour. It's an any percent run in which they used all different kinds of tricks to get from the very beginning to the very end in 59 minutes and 22 seconds. It's a new world record according to speedrun.com. ZDI6923 is currently at the top of the leaderboards, beating the previous record runner Sly Zorua, who finished in 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 42 seconds. It's still pretty impressive. I currently have about 80 to 90 hours in the game, maybe 100 if I'm giving myself more credit. But I still haven't finished it, and I don't think I'm setting any world records, unless it's for how many times I've died to fall damage. But I love the game so far. How many of the bosses have you beaten? And how many of you have beaten the final boss? And also, what was your time? Let me know. In other news, God of War artist Rafael Grassetti, who worked on 2018's God of War and 2022's God of War Ragnarok, is leaving Sony to work on an unannounced AAA game for Netflix. Rossetti announced his departure via Twitter and said he's joining a team led by Joseph Staten, who previously worked on the Halo franchise. The game is reportedly going to be a AAA title, meaning it'll be a much bigger undertaking than games Netflix has published previously. But no other details have been made public. Aside from his work on God of War, Grassetti has regularly shared some absolutely stunning fan art on social media, including realistic renditions of Marvel characters. So honestly, whatever Netflix puts him on, it's going to look great. Whatever the game turns out to be, you'll be sure to hear about it first here at IGN, so stay tuned. And finally, a North Carolina man tried to rob a business using an NES Sapper light gun. You know the one. It's usually orange and white or gray and white. It looks like a futuristic ray gun. According to North Carolina's WBTV, the suspect, David Joseph D'Alessandro, modified the zapper to appear mostly black, probably to look a little more like a real weapon. He showed it to the clerk at the store he was robbing and made off with $300. Deputies found him down the street moments later. Ironically, the NES Zapper's futuristic design exists specifically to make it look less like a real firearm, since the light gun released in Japan for the Famicom was a replica of a real-world revolver. The moral of the story, if you're trying to make a quick buck with vintage gaming hardware, just put it on eBay. You'll make way more than $300.
While it might seem unbelievable given the events of the fourth movie, John Wick 5 is reportedly in early development, according to Lionsgate. Now, during an earnings call, its motion picture chairman Joe Drake revealed more of the plans the company has for the John Wick series. Quote, "What is official is that, as you know, Ballerina is the first spin-off that comes out next year. We're in development on 3 others, including John Wick 5 and including television series. And so we're building out the world, and when that 5th movie comes, it will be organic. Will be organically grown out of how we're starting to tell those stories, but you can rely on a regular cadence of John Wick." Ooh, so it sounds like we'll be getting more regular entries in the John Wick franchise outside of the blockbuster movies on the big screen. Now, as the chairman stated in the earnings call, we can expect the spin-off movie Ballerina sometime next year, with the Continental series slated to release on Peacock later this fall. Now, as for a John Wick 5 movie, the question a lot of fans might have is, where in the franchise's timeline will it take place? Like, will it follow immediately after the 4th movie? Like, it might be kind of hard to do so given the current state of the titular hero, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Now, we could also, maybe get like a prequel of sorts, but as of right now, this is all speculation on my part. Now, the fact of the matter is, there's another John Wick movie the studio has planned. And outside of that, there's even talks of a video game. Yeah. In the same earnings call, the chairman went on to say, quote, "We're now moving across the franchise, not just in the AAA video game space, but looking at what the regular cadence of spin-offs, television really growing that universe so that there is a steady cadence of a franchise that there's clear appetite by the audience." Yeah, we are definitely hungry for more John Wick. This is really exciting to hear. Not only a AAA video game is in the works or on the way at some point, but we'll be receiving more theatrical spin-offs and television shows around and within the John Wick universe. Again, it's good to see John Wick fans will have a lot to chew on in the coming years regarding John Wick lore. Now, it looks like, this is only the beginning for the growing franchise. Now, while that whole John Wick movie and TV conversation might be the beginning of one franchise, The CW has brought one of its very own to an end with the series finale of the Flash series. Now, with the end of the Flash on the CW, so comes to an end the last remaining series in the Arrowverse. Now, the CW might still have Superman and Lois Gotham Knights, but those two shows exist in a different continuity than the Arrowverse. But, if you want to get technical, they're still within the extended universe or the multiverse. Anyways, the series starred Grant Gustin as The Flash in its 9-season run on the CW, and it's seen a slew of DC superheroes making a return in the show's final hours. Now, with The Flash now running off into the sunset, the question that remains is what will happen to the Gotham Knights series and Superman and Lois? They'll inevitably, get canceled at some point, unfortunately. It just seems highly likely given the CW's track record. Come on now. The Arrowverse began way back when in 2012 with the introduction of the Green Arrow series, Arrow. Since then, we've gotten show after show added to the growing roster of soon-to-be canceled DC shows like Batwoman, Black Lightning, and Legends of Tomorrow, all sleeper hits that everyone was sleeping on because no one really watched them. Anyways, fortunately, we'll see what James Gunn and Peter Safran have planned for the DCU on the big screen and on Max in Chapter 1 of their new vision for the DC on screen. And finally, with Netflix beginning to crack down on password sharing, Prime Video decided to throw a little shade with this cheeky tweet on its UK account. Now, the account even quote tweeted Netflix's 2017 tweet about how love is sharing a password comment. Boy, oh boy, how times have changed for the streaming service. Now, Netflix sent out an email earlier this week to US account holders letting us all know that our Netflix account is for us and only those that live in the same household as us. Then we're given this option to either pay an additional $7.99 a month for those added accounts or move them to their very own membership plan and have your mom, your dad, your ex-girlfriend all pay for their own Netflix accounts. Although you probably should have kicked your ex off a long time ago. What are you doing? Seriously. Anyways, me personally, I'll be taking a very long look at this email over the weekend, the long weekend, thinking about it long and hard as to whether I should keep my Netflix account or cancel it. And honestly, it's really not gonna take me too long to make a decision. No, not at all. The decision honestly isn't really that hard. How many times did I say hard in this long and hard in this script? Anyways, pause. Moving on, what do you plan on doing with your Netflix account? The 7 C's are vast and open, matey, if you get my drift.
It might not be current events exactly, but some news stories have surfaced about the chaotic and toxic writer's room of the hit ABC drama Lost. These come by way of the newly released book, Burn It Down, Power, Complicity, and a Call for Change. One excerpt has been making the rounds online after being published by Vanity Fair, and while Lost might have been loved by critics and fans alike, it sounded like a nightmare behind the scenes. In the book, author Maureen Ryan's reporting uncovered a hostile work environment filled with racism, sexism, and abuse. Speaking with actor Harold Perrineau, who played single father Michael, who was black, it became clear to him that his character was the token black actor for the cast. Perrineau said, quote, "It became pretty clear to me that I was the black guy. Daniel Day Kim was the Asian guy, and then you had Jack and Kate and Sawyer." An unnamed writer for the show added that, quote, "It's not that they didn't write stories for Saeed, an Iraqi character, or Sun and Jin, Korean characters. The writer recalled that someone told them that, quote, nobody cares about these characters, just give them a few scenes on another beach." Perrineau eventually left the show, although the reasons for his departure are murky. He claims he was fired. The showrunners claim Perrineau wanted out because he wasn't given much to do. Sources said that showrunner Damon Lindelof was overheard saying Perrineau, quote, "called me racist, so I fired his ass." Lost writer Monica Osuwu-Breen said that people laughed at this supposed joke. Lindelof and co-showrunner Carlton Cuse have denied saying such things, but Lindelof did admit he failed to create a safe work environment. That's just a tiny sample of the stories told in the excerpt and the book. The excerpt is eye-opening and very disturbing, but if you're a Lost fan or really into pop culture, it's definitely worth the read. Shifting gears to something slightly less dismal, the acclaimed sci-fi series Black Mirror is returning for a 6th collection of episodes next month, which is June 15th to be exact. A new trailer dropped today featuring the titles of the episodes, of which there will be 5. Hollywood stars like Salma Hayek, Aaron Paul, Michael Cera, and more will be playing characters in the new season. I love Black Mirror. My favorite episode is definitely White Christmas. Though I have to be in a very specific mood for the show. It's so dark and bleak, but it's so good. It's just incredibly depressing, so I have to brace myself for the stories. But honestly, I am so glad it's back for another season. The storytelling in Black Mirror is unrivaled, and I'm ready to feel existential again. And finally, Universal and Nintendo's mega hit adaptation of the Super Mario Bros. Games is still breaking records nearly 2 months into its theatrical run. The movie has now passed Frozen to become the second highest grossing animated film of all time, putting it just behind The Incredibles 2. The Super Mario Bros. Movie has raked in a little more than $1.2 billion worldwide, and it recently became available for rent on streaming platforms, so it's not done earning the big bucks. I contributed to that because I actually bought the Super Mario Bros. Movie and rewatched it again at home, and it's still so fun and magical. In my rewatch, I caught a few more cameos and Easter eggs the producer dropped in the movie, and it's such a fun, silly movie. I have a gut feeling this is only the first of many movies based on Mario and probably Nintendo games in general, and that's fine by me. I'm Stella Chung, and that was your Weekly Fix. We'll be back here next Saturday with more of the biggest gaming and entertainment news of the week. See you then.